You got John McMullen, Jordan McDonald, and Chris Franklin from NJ.com.
Yeah.
Comfortably ensconced indoors. I don't know why, Chris. Maybe it's the Eagles' 2 losses. I've been a picky pain in the ass all day today. Yeah, I like you outside, Ben.
It's like 10 degrees. You can't. We're going to get.
It was cold out this morning. When I got the dog out this morning, holy mackerel! I tried to go out with just slippers. My ankles almost came off, almost snapped off, like Brock Purdy's elbow in the championship game. I thought it was snapped off. I thought I was going to snap my ankle off this morning. So I'm just funning with you there, Franklin.
I will say this: I will go out before the season's over. I will do one more outside hit before the season's over. I will do that. I love the cold. I will do that.
The man. We appreciate that greatly. All right, your computer could freeze up on you, but we'd appreciate the effort greatly. Which of these has more of a chance to happen for the Philadelphia Eagles this week in the long, arduous practice time they'll be getting? Wink, wink, nod, nod. This week to prepare for the 49ers. Oh, and that key extra 30 hours because it got pushed back to Monday. That's going to make all the difference in the world. Will they more adjust their offense, which is coming under criticism now? They never run any motion. Look at all these other teams in the league. They're as basic and simplistic as it comes. The Eagles on offense. Or Sean Desai, who I said earlier in the season, I liked the fact that at least he was tinkering with the specific defense that Nick Sirianni once played. He's not drastic changing anything. Otherwise, he would have never gotten the job. But he was at least tinkering around the edges. Which do you think has a better chance of happening? The Eagle offense changes this week, as little as that may be, or the Eagles defense changes this week because of how badly they've played the last 2 weeks?
I think it's more the offense just to save the defense. In order to the fact that I think you run the ball more and you keep that defense fresh and try to keep them on the sideline as much as you can. Because you've seen what's happened right now in the last couple of weeks. It's like there's almost no answers. I mean, especially in the first half. You can't keep going in these deficits in the first half and expecting to come out, especially against good teams, to come out and with wins. And I'm still trying to figure out, maybe they need to get the ball to DeAndre Swift more. I mean, I think maybe that happens now. I don't know, behind closed doors, maybe he goes like, yo, why am I here? Use me more because I've proven that I can do that. I think they should do that and give him the ball and let him take over. And that, in turn, that gives defense that secondary more rest, gives that defensive line more rest, gives that linebacker core more rest. So that way the Seahawks won't try to attack in the middle. So change the offense to help save the defense.
Yeah, I mean, they had another big snap count on the defensive side. So it's been crazy how many reps. Now, part of it is they can't get off the field. A lot of things factor in there. The Eagles can't convert third downs on offense enough. They can't get off the field. Third downs on defense, 32nd in the league. So it all kind of intermixes together. But, when I talk, we'll get to the defense. But when I think about the offense, first thing, Chris, they didn't throw the football to anybody except the big three. I mean, you got to get somebody else involved. You got to throw a curveball. I can't believe I'm asking for a bubble screen to Julio Jones. Give me something.
Well, we have
all AJ Devontae in Dallas. You got to mix it up a little bit. Am I crazy?
I think you got to go to your main guys, but I thought but also, when you look at it, when they're going 4 or 5 wide, there wasn't that many opportunities to throw it to somebody else. I think it's a little bit of a trust thing. What Hurts wants to go to the guys they feel he can make plays he's comfortable with, and then just the way the game played out as well too. Because when you look at Julio or Zacchaeus, one of those guys are underneath. The Cowboys were playing the underneath game well, and then Hurts was under pressure, so you try to look around and do that. It was rough to do, but. Yeah, it just seemed like they were saying ride the main horses.
To give you guys an example of what I'm talking about, the great Tommy DeVito, who threw it 21 times last night, threw it to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different receivers. I mean, you look at any box score in the NFL this week. Green Bay, obviously, they're throwing the football a lot. Jordan Love threw it 39 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 receivers. I mean, there's got to be more layers to this offense, Chris. are they relying too much on their talent? They don't use motion. They don't scheme lesser receivers like Quez Watkins or Julio at this stage, or Olamide Zaccheaus or Jack Stoll or Grant Calcaterra or Alberto when he's actually playing. They don't scheme those guys open. Or am I being too harsh on Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson?
I think there could be some tweaks to his offense, especially some of those vertical routes. Because, yeah, I mean, there's times, opportunities like you mentioned, Quez. I think sometimes you just need to take a shot. Just throw downfield, say, we're going 4 verts. Quez, this ball's going to you. Just someone just want to stretch the defense a little bit more. Just try to attack them and just put it in their minds to do it. Because just the game plan itself, the motion part, I know Nick doesn't like to do it just to do it, but you get so much intel just off of one little thing. Even we saw him do it, and the thing is, I think it coincided well when they were really moving the ball early on in the game. We saw a lot more motion, and I don't think that was a coincidence. And then the game started getting away a little bit. It was just more of stay here and then go. You got to use it sometime. You got to use it, and
Yeah.
it's one. I think it's this philosophy thing, and the philosophy has to change because you sometimes motion you guys motion itself into a big play. You just don't see it, and it's getting to the point where it's almost getting too late in the season. Now you can throw a package here or two and just have something there, but it's getting to the point when too late in the season, you're going to be stuck in there, and it could come back to bite you, especially in the postseason when these defenses know what you're doing.
If we all agree that spreading the ball around is a necessity, how much of this is on Jalen Hurts? You snap the ball, you got your first read, second read, third read. Jalen shuttles ahead to whatever read it needs to be to throw it to AJ or to Devontae, that he doesn't have confidence in throwing it to. The Stoll or Swift or Gainwell or Tulio or Quez. How much of it is Jalen just isn't going to pull the trigger because he doesn't trust him to catch it?
I think it's more of a he wants to try to go downfield too much. I think sometimes you got to take the check down.
Yeah.
I mean, there's times where we mentioned Swift and Gainwell. There's times they were open, they had space in a 3-yard completion and moving the ball a little bit is better than trying something 20 yards down the field to double coverage. But I think that's one of the things. Sometimes you got to tell them, like, hey, you know what? Take the check down here. It still completion percentage still help get you move the ball down the field instead of going find yourself in second, third and long now because you're trying to do something downfield and you can't push it. And I'm sorry, I got like 3-4 different things going on. Like, that's trying not to be nerdy, but I look at it and I'm just like, you know what? It's some of it is on him. When you go your progressions and you just got to push. Sometimes you just got to say, you know what? You win this one, I'll still take 3 free yards. I'll make it second, third. You look at what Prescott was doing. He was doing it too. He had another second, the third and 2 looks a lot better than being a 3rd, 10, 3rd, 11 with penalties or fumbles, what have you.
Yeah, and by the way, there were 2 games last night. There was another rookie quarterback playing. Will Levis, Tennessee upsets Miami. He threw it to 7 different receivers. Tua threw it to 8 different receivers. You see this everywhere. It's not just so. To me, it is a problem. Now, it's never a problem when AJ catches the ball, Devontae catches the ball. It was an uncharacteristic game for the Eagles' best receivers. So you had the drop. Devontae Smith catches that football usually. We've seen him make so many great catches in the end zone, Chris. I don't know how you felt, but I consider that a drop. And maybe I put too much into Devontae because he's so good. But certainly AJ, 3-4 yard line, wherever it was, he had a key drop. And then they both fumbled. I mean, do you sort of, as I just ripped the offense, do you say if those guys make the plays they typically make, not saying the Eagles are going to win the game, but they're in the game.
It's closer, but also you look at this. It's something about when I look at Stephon Gilmore. I think he was something. I don't know if it's back to the AFC South days, but whenever he and AJ get together, I still remember when the Eagles played the Colts. And Stephon Gilmore had that game against AJ, and I don't let him too. It's something about Stephon Gilmore or AJ Brown where it's just something. I don't know if somebody said something about somebody's family member, what have you. It's just really personal to him, and then it seems to throw him off a little bit. And it just looks like he's off, and there's
AJ
a lot
called
of
him old. AJ's like a mean girl. He's like the movie Mean Girls. Yeah.
Yeah, it's you wonder, it's like what's going on? He throws him off, and then when he's really emotionally invested in like trying to like, I'm gonna beat you no matter what, like every receiver has that, but when he's really trying to take it over the top, you see what happens on that one too. So I think that played a role into it. But overall, it'll be closer, but I don't know what was going on. 9 times out of 10, I think Devontae Smith gets that football.
Yeah.
And it's I wish I knew how to answer going, hey, you know what? I don't know if I don't know if it was, hey, you know what, but whatever it was, it's like just looking like what's going on. And then the ball security, so the fumble stuff, we see these ball security drills 9 times out of 10. They keep running around with the car wash, gauntlet, whatever thing. And the fact it's still happening is very, frankly, very concerning to me. Still, it's going to happen this late in the season.
Yeah, the last 2 games before this one, Jalen had spread it around 8 receivers in the Buffalo game and 7 in the San Francisco game. So I think this one's more an outlier than it is. My God, he only throws it to those 2 guys. So we'll see how it plays out this week. All right, here's my question for you, Chris Franklin. Who's going to step up and grab the leadership by the throat this week? I know it's supposed to be the quarterback, and the quarterback shows every ability to do that and says the right things. And does he need help? Is it just Jalen's responsibility to just wake the F up, you guys? We need to get a win here in Seattle. Veteran guys all over this team, pretty well-respected, trusted, if not beloved head coach. Who's got to help Jalen out, or do you just say it's on the quarterback? It always is the quarterback, has to be the quarterback. It's all on Jalen. Who is either the individual and or the group that's got to get this team headed right back in the right direction?
I know the quarterback is probably one of the most, if not the important guy that leads your team, but I think this is a time where you look at your core 4, your veterans of Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey. This is the week you look to them the whole thing. I don't care if you let them break them down the whole time, and don't care if you do it before practice, you have them thoughts on. This is the week where you rely on those 4 guys because they've been through this thing way many times before. Like they've been to this section where, you know, they've been through these stretches of losing. They've been through these stretches of winning as well too. You need those guys to step up and start talking to these guys. I mean, you heard it after the game. The way that Fletcher Cox was talking about, we're going to find out who these guys are. You heard Brandon Graham say the same thing too. I think this is the time that they see this coming up. And they got a point because so many times you see guys like when they're winning, we get to talk to them a lot and they're available, and losing out of the way a little bit. This is one thing. If they circle the wagons and need to change something quickly because there's too much. They're still too much early. They still can turn things around. I still think they're not just reliable. They're not related to, okay, yeah, we're 2, 3, C, 5, C, what have you, that one too. There's still time they can turn things around and make a run here. But it's that window of opportunity is closing quickly, and his team's too talented to see a divisional round exit. I don't think even if they get the wild card, I don't think they lose to the NFC South. But this team is too talented to get bounced out too early. So I think that those 4 guys, it's probably the most important week they've had this season to rally his team and try to turn things around.
Yeah, and at least on paper, the Eagles should be better equipped to handle this adversity than most teams because of that core 4 you mentioned. Those particular guys, Jason, Lane, Fletcher, Brandon, they should be more prepared. We'll see how it shakes out. We do got to get to the defensive side of the football, and boy, where do you start, Chris? I mean, 30 seconds. You think about Nick Sirianni. And you know, he talks about it all the time. Situational football, blah, 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 blah. 32nd in 3rd down defense. Now they're 30th in red zone defense. This is all they practice. This is all they do. And they're terrible at it. Where do you even start? It's obviously the back 7, but even the front is not performing as we expected. They're on the field a lot. You know, they had that one stretch where they gave up 10 consecutive drives, except a kneel down with points. What does Sean Desai got to do to stop the bleeding?
He's in a tough spot now. And I know they try to simplify everything.
Which I advocated, and I was wrong. because it didn't work.
Because I look at this with you simplify things. You still had trouble executing with the simplified defense, and B, you simplify things. Quarterbacks going, it makes it easier for the quarterback start picking you apart. So it's one of the things like we hear.
Yeah, I said I was wrong, Chris. Come on, don't pile on.
My thing is like that.
We've been beating up on the Eagles for 2 weeks, Johnny Mac. We got to take our shots too.
Yeah, and there's times I'm thinking like sometimes the defense player gets too cute. Like you saw Josh Sweat one time rushing. He started looking like he's gonna rush. Then they want him to drop back into coverage, and then he gets a rush again. Like you look at the things like I don't want to see Josh Sweat running in his own, like running those exotic things. I want him just to go. I want Hassan Reddick just to go. I want to use my best pass rusher to try to apply pressure or try to spring out the runs. I don't want to try to use them again. I know you use them on blitzes sometimes, so I don't want to see that. Especially when you're a defense that's struggling and you need to get pressure on a quarterback. I want to see those guys try to affect them. And it looks like there's having issues when it comes to the defensive line trying to make those rushes what they're trying to do, and then trying to have that play out with what the back seven is. There's a disconnect there.
Yeah.
Like, okay, the rush concepts make sense. The back seven concept, but why are you running those two concepts that don't help each other out? So
Did you see, by the way, the Kelly Ringo play, as I call it, where he got pass interference face mask on the same play? Did you see the pass rush on that? Somebody put the clip up.
Yeah,
I don't know what the hell they were doing. There was no. It looked like there was no plan. It was a jumbled mess. Reddick was like a spy. I don't even know. Your best pass rusher. I don't know what they were doing. The scheme isn't there either. It's a lot of people kill me because I got along with JG and blah blah blah, and they hated JG. Even the good part of this defense, the fronts, is not performing up to par. So at what point do we say, all right, maybe it's a bigger deal than we all expected with having a new coordinator and 5 new starters?
That plays a big role into it. I really do. You lost your whole entire, you almost lost your whole secondary before you had those 2 guys resign. So I think it's a really big thing. To me, I'm not the biggest fan of the scheme to begin with. Like
you and me both.
I know it's taking over the league, but I'm just like the whole thing of defense. You want to be aggressive, but then you're being passive. It's weird, but it's to the point where you start quite. I don't think he gets fired. I don't think it's one of those things, but I think next year, heading into next year, there's going to be a closer eye on this side. And if it doesn't change things after next year, I think a change could be warranted. But we're too far ahead of that one, too, at least for this year.
We started to leak into that conversation earlier today.
Yeah.
We all agree. Yeah, we're getting ahead of ourselves. They got to finish these 4 games before.
Yeah, they can still turn it around.
Coach. Yeah,
but I think it's fair to point out Jeffrey Lurie's history and the expectations of this team. And if they don't reach those expectations, he's going to go looking for a scapegoat. Bottom line.
That is the Eagles' history. All right, Chris, I got an exit stage left. Johnny Mac going to stay with you. I think Xander might jump in as well. Thanks for jumping in with us today, Johnny Mac. I will talk to you tomorrow.
Continue. Jody, enjoy it. Jody's going to be on CBS Radio.
So you got to deal with be on the box next to you. Oh, I'm usually looking up like, what's up, man?
How you doing? And at C Franklin News, make sure you follow Chris on Twitter, X, as it's known now, NJ.com, South Jersey Times. He's all over. You know the list. There's so many. Now Bob Brookover's helping him out over at NJ.com. So they're doing tremendous work over there. But I want the coordinator, so we'll talk about Brian Johnson because he's taken a lot of hits as well. And I get it. I just talked about no motion. I just talked about not getting other receivers involved. So there's plenty of things to criticize this offense about. But also, as I mentioned before, when A.J. Brown fumbles and Devontae Smith fumbles, when A.J. Brown has a big drop, Devontae Smith has a big drop, you can't overcome that, right? I mean, that's not Nick Sirianni's fault. That's not Brian Johnson's fault. Is it?
You can overcome it. I really do think it's just a matter of to me, it's just that's the frustrating thing when I look at both the coordinators is the fact that you come out with these slow starts, and then after halftime, it's like, oh, okay, and his team looks like a completely different team. Like the ball, they were moving the ball. Granted, the game situation last week, at least that one, but looking previously before last week, they moved the ball better in the second half, and the defense plays better after that too, making adjustments. To me, the mark of a good coordinator is knowing what plan coming out with a plan what plan you're coming out with to attack early to not put yourselves in that way. Because this team, to me, this team is more of a play ahead type team where you get your pass rush going when you're far ahead, and then you look at that one too. So the fumbles, I get the turnovers do account for stuff, and it's not really on them. But I think it does come on them when you don't have a way you're not getting out to these leads to use your run game, because you look at these weapons they have, there's no reason why they should be the way they are right now. And then to see the output that they're having, that's when you start to look at, okay, maybe it's the coordinators, maybe you look at the coordinators or what have you. It's not all on them, but a lot of it to me is on them.
All right, we are in Philadelphia, Chris, so I have to ask you the run the football question. You mentioned it a little bit with DeAndre Swift, and you mentioned the slow starts. More so, I look, I think it's antiquated. I think people have to get out of 1985 and realize how the NFL game is played today. I think all you have to do is follow the money. Look at how Howie Roseman builds this roster. The stars are the stars. They spend all this money on AJ, and they're going to spend all this money on Devontae and the quarterback and Dallas Goedert. Meanwhile, they shop at the Walmart clearance aisle for the running backs. Why is everybody like, oh, give it to those guys? Ignore the superstars. Give it to those guys.
It's a lot of the mentality. I think a lot of people just want to think to the old school Eagles football. They just want to be physical and try to run everything down another team's throat. And when I say run the ball, I'm not talking about like 30, 35 times, that one too.
You're talking about run the football effectively. I think if people put that word on the back end, I'm fine with it. When you do run it, just run it effectively.
And use that formation. I've been calling for this more, and I like that they used it on Sunday. But that pistol look, I think, for them should be their main look, because the way they've used it, it's been so effective. Because you still give the running back enough time to run his normal depth. You still give Hurts the chance to be off the line of scrimmage and look downfield and see everything and see the coverage is enough. And then I think it gives time to let this offensive line open up the holes that they're capable of doing. And you can use that. I just look at that, and I think it also helps. It won't put as much pressure on Hurts and the rest of the offense as they get, even if it's like 2nd and 7 or what have you. Instead of trying to do these first downs and first down tries to go downfield 12, 13 yards. And to me, it also doesn't count too. If they make a big play, when you see that quick, you run up to the line. It's almost like you know what's going to happen. When they get a big play 21, they run the hurry up. It's either a wham block or a halfback dive or what have you, and it goes for like 1-2 yards because teams know what's happening. Just mix it up and mix the looks up. I think it'd be a lot more effective.
All right, last one. As I mentioned, at C Franklin News, you see it there on the screen. Make sure you follow Chris, NJ.com. I think you were the one who wrote it, and it was basically you were asking the question, after the Dallas loss, it's now become the old standard: who's with us or who's against us. The Eagles love playing that card. Doug Peterson going back to the underdog mask. We all know Rocky, yada, yada, yada. Is that played out? Can Nick Sirianni go back to that again? Are we supposed to be? Chris Franklin's not with us. He's not saying we're the greatest team in football. Is that a card that's overplayed, or can he use it?
I think you can use it, especially. I think now it's the best time, especially the only time you pretty much use is when you're losing. But I think now when you're winning, you're going 10-1. When you're like 10-1, and you're like nobody's with us, we can still do it. You're like, cool. But you really do start to see, whether it's outside the locker room, whether it's inside the locker room, who's really about themselves and who's not really looking for the bigger picture toward thing. And you really can gain the refocus of these guys in the locker room by using that. I think it's still effective. The message saying is like, oh look, the underdog mask, no, that was for that season. They run on, and besides Flyers have stolen that now.
He'll have the underdog hat on though. He'll have the hat on this week, don't you think? We're going to see Nick on Zoom. Is he going to be wearing the underdog hat?
I think you'll see that. I think you see that, or somebody Photoshop a picture of Dom on Rocky's body with the irons up, like free Dom or something like that. I think you see one of those things. But
by the way, I think Dom is free. You don't have to free Dom. He is free. He is not on house arrest. So
he's not a political prisoner.
Dom's going to be just fine. But Chris, we'll be talking to the head coach later this afternoon. Everything pushed back a day this week because the Eagles are playing on Monday night at Seattle. So we'll talk to the head coach at 3:15. I'll see you then, buddy. I appreciate it. And it's always fun talking football with Chris Franklin. We're gonna put a bow on the show here on Burst 365. That's something Jody usually says, but we'll be back right after this.